WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar and Conakry, 1 p.m. in Lagos. Good afternoon. And thank you for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM around the world at wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. First, our major stories. Senegal and Morocco signed several agreements at their 15th Joint Commission session in Rabat. ICRC urges protection of water sources as UN Water Preparatory Forum concludes in Dakar.
Without any water, for instance, you are going to be at the risk of illnesses, but also you have higher risks for women and girls exposed to violence.
Uribari pledges a transformative public sector following his reappointment as Guinea's Prime Minister.
I will work in the interest of the program carried by the President and in response to the expectations of the Guinean people.
And Nigeria's defense headquarters confirms the earlier report of a coup plot against President Tinubu. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Sankulu Jubril Janko.
Many thanks for joining us this afternoon. Newslink begins with an update on the recent two-day visit of Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko to Morocco. On Monday, Sonko and his Moroccan counterpart Aziz Akanouch led the 15th session of the Joint High Commission for Cooperation, which concluded with the signing of several cooperation agreements and memoranda of understanding. Abdullah Hassan has more in the following report.
The 15th session of the Senegal-Morocco Joint High Commission on Cooperation was held under the leadership of the prime ministers of both countries. The foreign ministries of Senegal and Morocco signed a memorandum of understanding on road transport covering passenger and freight transport, road safety, and technical support for highways. Additional agreements were signed on digital economy cooperation, vocational training, scholarships, and expertise sharing. The higher education ministries of both countries also signed agreements covering the 2026 to 2028 period to strengthen collaboration in higher education. The ministries of industry and commerce signed a memorandum to promote the development of small and medium-sized enterprises and industrial infrastructure. In the agricultural sector, the ministries signed an agreement on animal production, animal health, and food safety. A partnership and cooperation agreement was also signed between the ports of Senegal and Morocco. At the conclusion of the session, the prime ministers of Morocco and Senegal reaffirmed their commitment to elevating the bilateral partnership to a higher level. Additionally, a meeting between Moroccan and Senegalese business operators is scheduled in Casablanca to explore investment and partnership opportunities in Senegal and Morocco.
Abdullah Hassan with that report. Here in Senegal, the high-level preparatory meeting for the UN Water wraps up today. Chaired by the Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye, delegates at the gathering called on states and governments to translate commitments into action to ensure water reaches everyone. On the eve of the preparatory meeting for 2026, the International Committee for the Red Cross issued a press statement warning about the use of water as a weapon of war in conflict zones. Nearly 180 million people living in conflict zones have seen their water resources destroyed or manipulated, even as humanitarian needs continue to soar.
What I can tell you is that people living specifically in conflict zones or surrounded by armed violence are particularly vulnerable to water scarcity. Indeed, we've seen water supplies and essential infrastructures providing water being targeted. And this is when we do have to be alarmed at the fact that sometimes water is used as a war weapon. But we also see water or water infrastructures being collateral damage during conflict. And the result of that is, of course, that water is life. And so that without any water, for instance, you are going to be at risk of illnesses such as cholera, Hospitals are not going to be functioning anymore if you don't have clean water. You cannot be cleaning wounds properly. But also you have higher risks for women and girls, since they are the ones who usually go and fetch water. They have to go further away and they're exposed to violence. And finally, there's the risk linked to agriculture. So if there's no water, nothing can grow, which means that there's no food.
Well, Eleanor Asomwani is regional spokesperson for the International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
In Guinea, the head of state has reappointed Amadou Wuriba as prime minister, tasking him with leading the first government of the country's new political era. At the same time, President Mamadou Doumbouya has approved the new structure of the executive, which will comprise 27 ministries and 2 general secretariats. The decision marks the start of the process to form a new government, expected to be announced in the coming days. Augustine Coley reports.
President Mamadi Doumbouya has renewed his confidence in Amadou Wuriba, reappointing him as Prime Minister and Head of Government in a decree read on state television RTG. The move follows the collective resignation of the former cabinet, accepted by the head of state as part of the process of setting up the institutions of the Fifth Republic, marking a new phase in public governance. By retaining Amadou Wuriba, President Doumbouya signals continuity at a time of heightened expectations for political, economic and social reforms. The decision was welcomed by the Prime Minister.
I am deeply moved, first of all, by the renewed confidence once again shown in me by the President of the Republic, Mamadi Doumbouya. I fully appreciate the weight of the responsibility he has entrusted to me, and I will do my utmost to live up to it. I will work in the interest of the program carried by the President and in response to the expectations of the Guinean people. In this context, we pray that God grants us the strength, together with President Doumbouya, to meet the needs and the aspirations so strongly expressed by the population. We need everyone. The task ahead is not easy. The country needs cohesion and stability. With God's help, we will move the country forward.
In the same decree, the President also announced the structure of the next government. The new executive will consist of 27 ministries and 2 general secretariats, with several portfolios bearing new titles. The full list of ministers is expected in the coming days.
A report by WDR's Cherno Alpha Ibrahim Abalde in Conakry and voiced by Augustine Coley. In Liberia, President Joseph Boakai has said the country is in a better state than a year ago. President Boakai, in his third national address at the legislature, cited progress in agriculture, infrastructure, education, health, tourism, and the rule of law. Acknowledging ongoing economic challenges, he reaffirmed his administration's commitment to improving livelihoods and strengthening democracy through 16 executive orders focused on governance and socio-economic reforms. Bokai's address has, however, received mixed reactions from opposition lawmakers, civil society groups, rights activists, and the public. WDR's Abraham Packer reports from Abuja.
The Liberian president has called for amendments to existing anti-corruption laws, including the removal of the statute of limitations on corruption cases. One of the main points of public debate following the address is the president's claim that his administration has created more than 70,000 short and medium-term jobs across various sectors.
Business that exploits consumers will be held accountable. We have created more than 70,000 short and medium-term jobs across the infrastructure.
Reacting to the speech, human rights lawyer Tiawan Gongolo questioned the job creation figures, arguing that they fall far short of addressing the needs of Liberia's growing young population.
Liberia is 119 years older than Botswana. Botswana is now a middle-income country. We are far behind. In a country where the president pro tem, the speaker, make higher than the president pro tem and speaker of the United States Congress, we cannot make progress.
Liberians, for their part, voiced concerns about the country's economic conditions, pointing to ongoing hardship and limited opportunities for meaningful economic advancement.
Now, Liberian people are suffering under this regime, telling us that he has provided almost 100,000 jobs. Where are the jobs? Only about the first family. The first family are achieved more than the commoners.
President Joseph Boakar's State of the Nation address lays out a vision of a progressive Liberia aimed at sustained growth and prosperity. However, the best reactions to the speech highlight the significant challenges that still lie ahead. For WADR, April and Parker, Monrovia.
Nigeria's defense headquarters on Monday confirmed the coup plot it had previously denied, raising questions about transparency within the security agencies. The confirmation comes after weeks of internal scrutiny following intelligence suggesting activities that could pose a threat to national stability. The document is said to have been submitted to President Bola Tinubu without mentioning when or officials who attended the handing over ceremony. WADR's Abuja correspondent Yechenu Sasetu reports.
After months of speculation, the defense headquarters now says investigations uncovered a plot by some military personnel to overthrow President Bola Tinubu. The information came to public attention in October 2025, following the federal government's sudden cancellation of the military parade planned for Nigeria's 65th independence anniversary. At the time, the military dismissed claims linking the cancellation to a coup attempt and said the arrest of at least 16 officers was unrelated. Those assurances have since been reversed. In a statement on Monday, the Director of Defense Information, Brigadier General Samaila Uba, said investigations carried out under established military procedures confirmed the involvement of some personnel. General Uba said the affected officers will be arraigned before relevant military judicial panels. Sources familiar with the development described the submission of the report to President Bola Tinubu as a critical milestone in closing the investigation phase. They believe the report will enable the presidency to review findings, recommendations, and any disciplinary or legal pathways deemed necessary. While details of the report remain classified, officials emphasized that the process reinforces accountability within the ranks and reassures citizens of the armed forces' loyalty to the Constitution. For WADR, Yechenu Sasetu reporting.
In Togo, the National Civil Protection Agency has officially launched a humanitarian assistance project. Inaugurated on Monday in Lomé, the scheme will cater for internally displaced persons, refugees, stateless persons, and asylum seekers, as well as host communities. The ECOWAS-funded initiative aims to sustainably improve the living conditions of the most vulnerable populations. Christopher Atichu tells us more.
The security crisis in northern Togo has resulted in around 60,000 internally displaced persons. The country is also hosting more than 45,000 refugees and asylum seekers, mainly from Burkina Faso. The urgent need of these populations are placing increasing pressure on host communities and basic social services. It is within this context that the project entitled Humanitarian Assistance to Displaced Persons, Refugees, Stateless Persons, Asylum Seekers and Host Communities has been launched. Hoda Balokaja is Secretary General of the Ministry of Security and Civil Protection.
The launch of this project also forms part of efforts to strengthen the safety of communities. Protecting the population is the first of the three key pillars of the President of the Council's policy. This project reflects the continued commitment of the government and its partners to leave no one behind while reinforcing stability and social cohesion in the affected areas.
The project will strengthen the livelihood of nearly 10,000 displaced persons and host families in the Savans and Kara regions. Yaya Seda Tupana, Director of Planning and Emergency Operations.
The main planned activities include the construction of social infrastructure and the provision of food assistance. Beneficiaries come from the prefectures of Penja, Penja West, South and Central. The beneficiary households have been identified within the host communities.
This initiative by the Togolese authorities aimed at providing a concrete, coordinated and sustainable humanitarian response to the challenges linked to forced displacement is funded by ECOWAS to a tune of nearly $720,000.
A report by our Loma correspondent Sylvia Wadrago and presented by Christopher Atichu. Crossing over to Ghana, 121 health professionals have departed for Antigua and Barbuda in the Caribbean. Their departure is under President John Mahama's Ghana Labour Export Program, designed to create jobs for trained but unemployed health workers in the country. Health Minister Akwabena Aminta Akando says the program will be expanded to other Caribbean nations. From Accra, Nadi Ditete reports.
The first batch of beneficiaries under the Ghana Labour Export Program has officially left the country for Antigua and Barbuda, where they will provide services in midwifery, mental health and general health care. Speaking at a send-off ceremony in Accra, Health Minister Kwabena Aminta Akando said the government introduced the initiative after inheriting a large pool of trained professionals who remain without postings.
So as part of government intervention to create jobs for especially the health professionals, we're exploring avenues where countries have requested our health professionals to work with them. Today is about Antigua. We are working on Jamaica, Barbados, and Trinidad. And so we'll be doing that in batches. We'll be following your progress with keen interest. As you are going, you must be minded of the fact that you are carrying the flag of Ghana. And therefore, we wish that you go and work with diligence and professionalism.
The beneficiaries expressed excitement and pledged to fly Ghana's flag high.
Feeling is great, and I'm very excited about this program because the program has opened opportunities for a lot of us. Some of us has the intention of traveling, but this program has made it easy for us. We're doing our best, and we are also going to do our best there to make Ghana proud and to make Antigua people too proud. Antigua, here we come.
It has a great impact on our economy because as compared to what we have or what is being given here in Ghana, this one is far better than what is being paid in Ghana.
I'm really excited and thankful to the President.
Turning to concerns about possible staff shortages at home, the minister assured health workers and the public that Ghana currently has more trained personnel than the national budget can immediately absorb. He said while government continues to post some professionals to facilities across the country, it is also exploring opportunities abroad to ease unemployment in the sector. For WADR, Nadidi Teti, Accra.
You're listening to Newslink here on West Africa, the Democracy Radio Broadcasting on 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Senegal and Morocco signed several agreements at their 15th Joint Commission session in Rabat. ICRC urges protection of water resources as UN Water Preparatory Forum concludes in Dakar. Wadr pledges a transformative public sector following his reappointment as Guinea's Prime Minister. And Nigeria's defense headquarters confirms earlier report of a coup plot against President Tinubu. Still ahead in the news, we have press review, guest interview, and press sport news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Elsewhere in the Gambia, a special criminal division for the High Court in Mile 7, Dakar in Kanifing Municipality, was inaugurated on Monday. This new division is expected to fast-track criminal cases, reduce the backlog of trials, and improve access to timely justice for citizens across the country. The project received support from the British High Commission and was officially unveiled as part of the activities marking the opening year of the 2026 legal year. In Banjul, WDR Sangdonal Mendy reports.
For years, the Gambia High Court has struggled with a growing backlog of cases, often resulting in prolonged pre-trial detentions. To address this, Chief Justice Hassan B. Jallow inaugurated the Special Criminal Division of the High Court. The objective is to accelerate the handling of serious criminal cases. Hassan B. Jallow serves as Gambia's Chief Justice.
It's an important occasion demonstrating commitment of the government and our partners, continuously building up the capacity of the judicial system in order for it to be able to discharge its responsibilities towards ensuring accountability for past crimes.
For her part, British High Commissioner to the Gambia, Harriet King, welcomed the initiative, noting that it will contribute to more effective delivery of justice.
Truth must be followed by justice, but justice
does not live in reports alone. Justice is delivered through institutions, credible, independent and capable institutions. That is why the establishment of the Special Criminal Division matters so deeply.
Judicial authorities say the new division will help reduce the backlog, improve efficiency, and ensure cases are resolved within a reasonable time frame. Currently, nearly 10,000 cases are pending in Gambia's courts, a sharp increase from previous years. In 2025 alone, the judiciary began the year with about 6,654 pending cases, recorded roughly 9,942 new filings, and resolved around 6,630, leaving a growing backlog to carry into 2026. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sangdona Mendy, reporting from Banjul.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Today's press review takes us to Monrovia, where we join Abraham Parker for a brief on major and banner headlines.
This edition features three local dailies. We begin with the New Republic newspaper, and it goes with these stories. Look beyond the politics for survival. NPC's political leader Seymour Freeman urges young people. Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency officers accused of harassment. Commissioner Alliance. Liberia electricity goes defensive. Says it never promised stable electricity. And rape in Plibo. Motorcycle dress 15-year-old in boot. Up next is Front Page Africa newspaper that goes with these stories. Repealing outdated PRC era decrees, President Bouaka moves to cancel military junta laws, highlights cost of living gains in annual message. The rest of the stories on Front Page are all issues that feature the president in the State of the Nation address. Our next and final stop is the Heritage newspaper. From recovery to global respect, Bouaka repositions Liberia on the world stage. Liberia prepares to shape West African monetary future as the Central Bank of Liberia briefs media ahead of statutory meetings. And Association of Female Lawyers of Liberia passes anti-FGM law. Well, that does it for this edition of Press Review from Liberia's capital, Monrovia. It's back to you in studio.
Many thanks, Abraham Parker, for the press review from Monrovia.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
As a preparatory UN Water Summit wraps up in Dakar, the International Committee of the Red Cross ICRC is urging urgent collective action, placing the protection of water and armed conflict at the center of the diplomatic agenda. ICRC says in modern conflicts, attacks on water infrastructure and the use of water as a weapon have become increasingly common, sharply worsening humanitarian crisis. While 176.6 million people needed urgent water and sanitation assistance in 2024, only 48 million were reached. Deprived of water, civilians are trapped in a daily fight for survival, a cycle that can only be broken through strong humanitarian action and firm political commitment. Our guest is Elono Asomani, regional spokesperson for ICRC. She speaks about the organization's expectations from the Dakar Forum, particularly looking at the Sahel water crisis.
It's true that in the Sahel, we have the particular situation that it is basically a vicious circle. Water, or the lack of, is a source of conflict, but also the consequences of armed conflict or armed violence. For example, prolonged droughts reduces access to water. So when you have very little rain or on a very short period of time in the year, that means that livestock or cattle owner have to look for water and for grass elsewhere. Which also means that they might stumble upon the land that is not theirs, and this would make them potentially compete with other cattle owners. So that really is a problem because it can provoke tension, so conflict, but also armed violence displaces people, and it displaces them in places where they may not have access to water, to clean water, or to places where that same conflict has already damaged or made obsolete the water infrastructures.
What concrete outcomes does the ICRC expect from this preparatory high-level meeting for the UN Water Summit?
With this high-level preparatory meeting for the UN Water Conference, I think the ICRC is really hoping for innovative, flexible and multi-year financing that would allow us to provide specifically in conflict zones. And that doesn't always come as an emergency. It also comes as prevention, so preventing the collapse of those water systems to make sure that the gap between the needs and that aid is not as big. The second thing maybe could be to formally recognize that actually armed violence and armed conflict are a major obstacle to that access to water and integrate that water and conflict dimension to the conclusion of that conference, because we need to remember that targeting water systems, water infrastructures is actually prohibited by international humanitarian law.
Now, how can diplomatic commitments be translated into real protection for civilians on the ground?
So we have actors that are on the ground and that have the ability to help in those situations. So the International Committee of the Red Cross has, for instance, a unit that is in charge of assisting people who don't have access of water. For instance, in 2025, we've assisted 32 million people worldwide. So it is possible, and that is translated in the distribution of emergency water, the rehabilitation of water, sanitation and energy infrastructures, and always working hand in hand with local authorities. Earlier, we mentioned the Sahel in Mali in 2025. More than 160,000 people were able to access clean water thanks to infrastructures that were either constructed or rehabilitated by the International Committee of the Red Cross, and always in support of local authorities.
Eleanor Assoumani is the regional spokesperson for the International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC. Well, in sports, Kenya's long-distance runner Faith Kipyegon is turning her success on the track into social impact and has in plans to build a maternity facility in her hometown of Kirenget to improve access to safe childbirth. The Dare to Dream maternity ward will be funded by her sponsor, Nike. In tennis, the Olympic Solidarity and International Table Tennis Federation are boosting coach education in Zimbabwe and Djibouti, supporting youth development and preparations for the Dakar 2026 Youth Olympic Games. And in football, Nigeria's Super Falcons will compete in a 4-nation West African tournament in Abidjan from February 27 to March 7, 2026, as part of their build-up to the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations. We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West African Democracy Radio Broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Sek Njai for the technical assistance. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X and Instagram, and Facebook at WDR English. I am Sankule Janko. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kaigama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.